Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am back to talk about Legends of Tomorrow. 5 episodes this time. So sorry for the delay. The time got away from me, but we are going to be talking about episode 609, titled This Is Gus, which premiered July 11th. And then 610, titled Bad Blood, which premiered on July 18th. Then 611, titled The Final Frame, which premiered on August 8th. And then 612, titled Board Onboard, which premiered August 15th. And then episode 613, titled Silence of the Sonograms, which premiered August 22nd, 2021, all on the CW. Now, I am recording this on, I'm already forgetting the date. Recording this at August 25th. So the reason why for the delay, just so that we don't forget, I watched episode 609 and 610 on August 8th. But thinking that my PVR would record 611 and then I'd be able to just watch it later on that night because I had another phone call during that time. My PVR didn't record it, so then I didn't know where to find it, and then luckily On Demand had it, but I didn't have a chance to watch On Demand until 2 days ago when I was able to binge watch 11, 12, and 13 together. And by that point, since I hadn't recorded my thoughts on 9 and 10, I figured I'd wait for 11, and then 11 got delayed, and so that's a whole mess. But I'm here to talk about it because a lot of stuff happened as well too in these 5 episodes, and it was so easy to just marathon all the episodes that I needed to, because it just seemed like, wait, give me more kind of a thing. So there's that. Plus, also, because there was a bit of, I think 2 weeks of hiatus between 10 and 11, that's actually when the San Diego Comic-Con panel and the new trailer got released. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well in this video. So stay tuned for that. Before we really get into it, though, huge spoiler alert for 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. If you haven't seen any of those episodes, please go do so first, and then come back and see what I have to say about the episodes. Hopefully, I don't go too long in this video, but I'll do a brief recap for each episode before we go really into my thoughts about each of them. So I hope you stay tuned for that, because we're going on quite a ride in this episode. So like always for this, we are going to go in order instead of by section for the episodes. I will say, though, something I really started noticing, especially with these 5 episodes, and then also when thinking back about the season in general, Legends seemed to be, in this season particularly, seemed a lot more serialized, where storylines were continuing over multiple episodes, as opposed to just being episodes where it's just like it starts and ends with a case, or like the episode would end with the aberration, or the anachronism, or the encore, or the fugitive. Like, it'd be a one and done deal kind of an episode. In this season with the aliens that they're trying to find, we're seeing repeated aliens, or the same alien taking up more than one episode. So I'm really enjoying this more serialized focus for the Legends. It kind of has me remembering back to season 1 when Vandal Savage, or season 2 when we got different aspects of the Legion of Doom. So that's something there. But let's really get started with episode 9. This is Gus. And timeline, let's start, is that it's a few days since the events of 608, since Nathan, at the start of the episode, is still visiting the original Zari within the totem. Yeah, from what I can remember, yes. And also when it comes to time traveling, we see the Legends traveling to Vancouver 2023. And the alien, or the villain of the episode, is Baby Gus Gus, or that they're nicknaming him, but he is actually a Gusarax, according to Gary. So there's that. So for the storylines of this episode, I picked up on 2 different storylines. We have birthday surprises and then family surprises. So the first storyline, this episode takes place during Bayrod's 25th birthday, and everybody on board forgets that it's his birthday. So while they're tracking an alien pod that lands on the film set of Bud-Stuy, which happens to be Bayrod's favorite show, he thinks it's a surprise birthday gift to have him go see a live taping for one of the episodes. So that's where the alien focus of the episode, and that leads to Baby Gus Gus and stuff like that. And then also seeing how much this favorite show truly influenced Bayron and who he is as a character we know versus what he could have been, more of like business focused, if the show didn't have such a influence that it did. Second storyline deals with family surprises, and this is when Mick finds out that Lita is pregnant in 2023 by her boyfriend Nico, but we also find out that Mick has been absent in 2023 Lita's life for over a year. She doesn't know why. We as the audience don't know why. And obviously Mick's not going to know because that's his future and her past kind of a thing. So that part of the storyline is Mick pretty much trying to process the fact that his daughter is pregnant and the situation or the circumstances around it, and then also trying to figure out like where he has been and stuff and trying to accept that. So that got entertaining because it's Mick after all, right? The last scene in the episode shows Gary revealing to Mick and the team that Kayla impregnated Mick with her alien babies when they consummated their pretty much what they thought was their last dying moments together with tentacles involved. So that was a big surprise there too. We'll get to that later. But major tidbits, let's go into that. Constantine wasn't actually in this episode. We know that Spooner upgrades her gun. We have Astra being more attracted to the business version of Bayrod. We have Nathan auditioning for the show as a way to get in, and he even mentions the CW. We also get a moment at Bayrod's birthday party at the end of the episode that we find out from Zari 2.0 that she consulted with the ancestors to find a loophole to allow for the original Zari to leave the totem while Zari 2.0 stays in her place within it, just so to give Zari a bit of time to OG Zari a bit of time with the Legends team. The ancestors believe it's because they've never heard of having a totem split before, so they're thinking that as long as both Zaris aren't in the same place or plane of existence at the same time, that they should be good. So we have a swap out of the Zaris at the end of the episode. Now, most shocking moment of the episode. Or most shocking moment, yeah. It's first off, OG Zari getting some time outside of the totem. I wasn't expecting that for something like this where it's like the same actor playing two different characters. You will never know when it's going to happen because they're still going to be on the credits because it's still them. Whereas if it's a special guest star coming in, you can always tell if their name appears before they actually appear in the episode, kind of a thing. So it was a great surprise to see original Zari coming back and being reunited with Nate and the rest of the Legends. Another shocker was the fact that Mick is pregnant and not dying like I originally feared, because as we know, Dominic Purcell is leaving the show after this season. He's not going to be a series regular anymore. So I've kind of been worried about whether or not they're going to kill Mick off, and the fact that Lita in 2023 lost contact with her father over a year ago, which lines up to where Mick is right now in 2021. It kind of had me worrying that maybe he died and she never knew about it. But if he's being pregnant, now I'm wondering, is he going to survive that pregnancy, this alien pregnancy? I don't know, but the fact that Mick is now in this situation was also kind of hilarious because he was giving Lita a hard time for being pregnant herself. So that's kind of funny there. But let's move on to top favorite moments of the episode. First one, Bayrod's birthday party at the very end. It was great to see the Legends actually give him an uninterrupted celebration after the craziness they had to deal with. So I really appreciate that, and seeing everybody have an actual good time, because for shows it's very rare for us to see characters having good times, or it's very rare to actually see it ourselves. Yes, we always hear them mentioning it or them implying that that's what happened, but because usually conflict is what drives the episodes for a lot of things, we don't really see it. So it was great to see that moment for ourselves for a bit. Another favorite I had was the conversation between the two Zaris. It's always great. Like I said before, if you only follow me for certain things, but I always admire when an actor gets to play opposite themselves. So like with Nina Dobrev when she was playing Elena and Catherine on The Vampire Diaries, and then later all the different doppelgangers that came from it. When we get Tatiana Maslany from Orphan Black playing all the different clones on that show, and her having to work off of each other when it came to those characters. And then now with Tala doing the same thing with Zari and OG Zari. It's always very interesting. And also Constantine, he's had to do that too a few times this season, where he's playing two versions of himself or a character wearing his face. It's always been very interesting to see that in Supernatural. They've done that a few times too. So it always amazes me the logistics behind doing that, and it's just great to see how you can see one person playing two vastly different characters. So for me, it's always been a great thing just to see these two very different Zaris interact with each other and bonding, and yeah, it's just like I really love that for Zari 2.0 to even look into it and suggest something to allow for OG Zari, because technically OG Zari doesn't know this Behrad, her died, so, but to allow for her to have the chance to get to know him again and to reunite with the Legends was really great. So there's that. And then another favorite I did like about the show was the fact that we actually got to see the influence that Bud Stuy show had on Behrad and the overall message it had behind it, because we got to see who he is due to the show and then who he could have been without the show affecting his youth. And I really like that message because a lot of people don't realize how much a show can change a person's life. It could lead them down the right path. It could change their perspective on things. It could bring clarity. And I really like how they were demonstrating that through Behrad, because if you're new to my channel, and I had that same experience with Supernatural. Supernatural is one of my favorite shows of all time. It's been the longest show I've been a fan of since its creation 15 years ago. And that show made me realize what it means to be a fan of something. And it made me interested in going down the path of being a screenwriter, which is what I went to school for recently and just graduated. And now I'm actually pursuing that type of career. So if it weren't for Supernatural, I wouldn't be doing what I love to do, and that is creating stories and writing them in ways that people could hopefully watch in the future. So I really like with Behrad, we got to see visually how much an influence a show can be for people. So there's that. I didn't have any peeves for this episode, but I did have one random question, and that was, since 2021 Mick is the one that is pregnant, and 2023 Lita says she lost contact with Mick over a year ago, so for her to be like 2022, do you think that Mick won't survive this alien pregnancy? We do get an answer in episode 13, so hold off on that, but that is one that I did have at the end of it. So let's go to episode 10. So with episode 10, the timeline, I don't recall how long it's been between the two episodes. I don't think it's been that long because OG Zari is still part of this episode, but we do see them time travel to Spain, specifically February of 1939. The alien of the episode is still Gus or Gusarak, and he's just grown a lot more to it. But so storylines, I picked up on 3 different ones for this episode. First one, the Fountain of Imperium. The second one, baby drama. And the third one is a rampaging Gus. So the first one deals, first off, we meet Noel, who is a vampire who has the map to the Fountain of Imperium. We have Spooner translating the map for Constantine, which leads them to Spain. They meet Fernando, who is the bearer of the fountain's power. They try to do a power transfer, but Constantine is rejected from having the power from the Fountain of Imperium. So instead, he takes a new potion that he got from Crowley, who got it from Noel, the vampire. And yeah, so now he now has his magic due to this blood potion. And he controls Spooner and alters her memory, so she doesn't remember how he got his powers back. So that's craziness right there. Now with the baby drama, this is with Mick refusing to care for himself and not believing that he's pregnant, let alone that he has apparently 48 Necrian babies in his head. I wouldn't believe it either, but like he refuses to believe it, and Lita's trying to convince him and such. So we have that side storyline going there. And then while all that's happening, we have a Gus pretty much rapidly aging because his lifespan is actually 38 rotations, which means he's growing up very fast. He's getting more aggressive, and the legends are trying to deal with that. So he's a really tiny, adorable creature to then grow to this very big, fierce creature that's on Rampage. So there's that. The last scene of the episode shows Constantine getting more potion vials from Noelle in exchange for Crowley's portrait. I don't know if we're going to see the portrait again, but apparently he tries to warn Constantine by the addiction of the potion, but he just ignores him. Now, major tidbits for the episode. Sarah, Ava, and Gary in his human form were actually only present in one scene in the episode, but Gary's alien form was present throughout the episode. They explained it that he kind of broke his glasses or he lost them, so that's why. And they explained this by Sarah and Ava were off the Wave Rider for the weekend to look at wedding venues, and she left OG Zari in charge of watching the legends on board and dealing with baby Gus. So there's the explanation in there. And while that happened, Constantine and Spooner went to Spain in 1939 to find the Fountain of Imperium. Now, most shocking moment of the episode, Vampire Noelle making official. I mean, I know the legends dealt with like supernatural fugitives, but like to have it official that like vampires are a part of this, that's pretty cool. And then also I was kind of surprised that Constantine would resort to the addictive potion that Crowley kind of got reprimanded for. I didn't think John would stoop to that level, but apparently he needs magic that much. But hopefully it doesn't look good for him. And we'll have to wait and see about that. So, top favorite moments of the episode, I will say first one, Constantine's truth to Spooner about why he wants his magic back, about how he, from what I remember, he feels he has no value or no worth without his magic. It gives him power. It gives not just like actual power, but it makes him feel powerful, confident, able to stand his own ground, and fight against all the rules that were restricting him and stuff like that. So I really liked that he was honest with Spooner, and then we got to see a little bit more about Constantine for that. Another favorite I like was Mick's urgency when he thought that Lita was in labor. That was pretty fun, just because it's Mick, first off, but also it's just another moment of showing like how he cares, because for Mick, he may not express his emotions too often, but it's always his actions that do the talking for him. And I feel like the worry he expressed and the urgency when it came to that, it spoke volumes. And then it got to the point where it's like, I kind of wish she was in labor so that we can see Mick welcoming his grandson. But I understood why she lied, because she wanted to get Mick to the med bay to scan for his own health when he kept refusing to. So I understood it. Last favorite I did have was the legend singing to Gus with the original Zari recording it. That was just a fun little thing to see. Beirut playing the guitar, Gary in his Necrian form, I think he was doing the maracas or he was like tambourine or something, and then like Nate joining in with the singings with Beirut. It was just like it was entertaining. So that was a fun thing to see there. But the only peeve, we'll talk about that now. The only peeve I did have was the fact that no one else went to Spain for the mission. I understood why it was only going to be Constantine and Spooner, just for the purpose of like the secret of what happened in the Fountain of Imperium was only kept between the two of them. So I get that. But to explain away that the rest of the legends just stayed on board to deal with baby Gus Gus. I was kind of surprised by that, and it just like I feel like another legend should have went to Spain with them, or at least check up with them when like they didn't check back in. So I don't know. It's in the notes. I just remember it felt like for something that was meant to be a huge focus of the episode, the search for the Fountain of Imperium, I felt like not enough legends were involved in that mission. So there's that. Random questions though. I did have a lot of questions though. So let's see if, and again, I haven't seen these questions since I've watched the episode back on the 8th. So let's see. First one. Where did they leave Gus Gus? Because they opened a time carrier portal for him to go into the woods, but then they never went back to retrieve him. I'm assuming they're just going to let him pretty much die in the woods after his 38 rotations. But then, like, where did they leave him? Was it prehistoric? Was leaving him going to affect the timeline anywhere? Like, what? He could do a lot of damage in 38 rotations if they just left him in present-day wooded area, you know? So that's a question there. Second, does Constantine have complete control over Spooner, or was it just that one command? I do have an answer to that. It just seems like it was only in that moment he had a command over her, and then he just altered the memory of what happened on their trip, which we find out later in later episodes. So there's that. And the last question I had was, do you think that with Zari 2.0 in the totem that Constantine might be able to hide his new addiction a little easier? Or maybe Astra will recognize the signs instead? Turns out not to be the case at all. And we'll talk about that later. But, okay, we're going to take a little break from talking about the episodes because at this point, this is when the 2 or 3 weeks hiatus was happening. But at this point, this is when the Comic-Con panel was happening on July 25th, 2021. So they released a new trailer to kind of promote the upcoming second half of the season. And it showed a preview of the Avalanche wedding. We see Nathan being the officiant. We see Kayla being mixed date, where it's implied that Bishop interrupts. And then there's also someone who is there as Gary's date. I'm assuming he's his date, because there's this guy that I don't recognize with glasses as well, so I don't know. We also see references to 611 dealing with the cosmic bowling alley for Sarah, Mick, Asher, and Spooner. We see some team bonding. It's apparently not a mushroom trip. We see Ava and Gary dressing up in different wedding dresses together in some type of montage. We see snippets of 612 with the Beast Slayer board game, the role-playing board game. We see Zari 2.0 back for this episode. We see Constantine making it real and not just a role-playing board game. And then we see snippets of episode 613 with Sarah going against Bishop. You don't really know it's episode 613 in the trailer, but after watching 613, I realized, oh, that is specifically that episode. So we see them going against each other. We see Constantine not handling the power addiction from the blood potion very well, with some very volatile magic happening against him. So we see a lot of things, and it definitely hypes you up for the remainder episodes of the season, because remember, we only have 15 episodes this season. Now, when it comes to the Comic-Con panel, everyone is present except for Sarah, aka Katie Lotz, and Mick, aka Dominic Purcell. They were absent, but from the panel, we found out that the Legends are having an album release for all the songs featured in this season. We find out the Constantine story is coming to a close in season 6, and it may not have a happy ending for him. Therefore, it may not be a happy ending for him and Zari as a couple. We also find out confirmation that the Avalanche wedding will happen this season, and they will get married, and it will be emotional. We do have some talks about the potential coupling of Behrad with Astra, some favorites for Spooner and Astra and their development together. We do find out that episode 14 will have more of Spooner's backstory, more of a connection between her and Astra, especially since they are each other's first true friend with each other and seeing how that forms between them, which is pretty cool. We find out in episode 15 that it's going to be bigger than the crossover in terms of like special effects, which I'm excited to see because that's supposed to be the season finale. So that's something there. They also reveal a bunch of season 7 stuff. So we find out that at the time of this panel on July 25th, the writer's room was currently breaking down episode 2, which is the 100th episode for Legends. So that's, we're gonna need to see some familiar faces for that episode for sure. We also get confirmation that Human Gideon is going to be a series regular. So that's going to be exciting. We also find out that the Legends are going to be stuck in a particular place in time, and they are going to struggle since they can't time travel in this time. We also find out that even though Constantine's story comes to an end in season 6, Matt Ryan, who plays him, is still a series regular for season 7, so he is coming on as a different character. Dr. Gwyn Davies, an eccentric Welsh scientist from the early 20th century, and he apparently is the only hope in saving the Legends and helping them return to their original time. So I guess wherever they're stuck in the timeline, this is where they're going to find Dr. Davies. So that is something there. It's very exciting. A lot of good things to look forward to in season 7, but also trying to figure out where they're going to leave season 6 off to get us there is going to be interesting as well. So with that said, let's go back to episode 11, The Final Frame, which was actually directed by Jess McCallan, aka Ava Sharp, which would explain why Ava was only in one scene in the previous episode, because she would have had to do a lot of prep as the director for this episode. So it makes sense. Now, when it comes to the timeline, I don't really know how long it's been between episodes 10 and 11, but original Zari, at the start of this episode, original Zari only had 24 hours left before she had to return to the totem. So I don't really recall how long she had in total to be outside of the totem, but this episode would mark her last time outside of it. So there's that. The villain or the alien of the episode, we know it's the Pin Killers, which was the bowling team with the purple shirts, but I don't recall if they ever named what kind of alien species they were. They're just like the bully bowlers at Buddy's Paradise in the Sky kind of a thing. So there's that. Now, when it comes to storylines, I picked on 3 different ones. You got the cosmic bowling. You got the second one being No Earth, How, which is, we'll get to that. And the third one being Nature Retreat Gone Wrong. So the first storyline dealing with Sarah, Mick, Astra, and Spooner trying to locate an alien pod in Kansas City 2021, and they find this box inside of it, which they accidentally activate, and it takes them to this bowling alley in space, which then leads them to going against the Pin Killers, where they're pretty much bowling for human existence, pretty much. We find out that Sarah and Astra have never bowled before, though Sarah is a natural. Mick seems to hate it, and we find out that Spooner has learned the art of bowling since she was 13 years old to help her stay out of trouble. So now it's up to them to win against the Pin Killers in order to save humanity, essentially. Which leads to the second storyline, which is No Earth, How. So shortly after they get to the bowling alley, the Wave Rider cannot locate Earth. So Bayrod and Constantine Constantine suggested they use a spell to conjure the 4 elements of the earth so that he could take the Wave Rider to Earth. And Bayrod helps him collect all the different little representations of the elements. Meanwhile, Gary is meant to distract Ava by helping her with her wedding dress shopping with Gideon in the fabricator, which leads she finds perfect dress, but then Gary continues to delay the process by making more suggestions and stuff until Ava feels the effects of Constantine's spell, which leads them to the bowling alley, only for them to find out that Earth is somehow in the bowling alley, and it's in the form of a bowling ball that the Pin Killers are using because they're playing cosmic bowling, and it's when the planet is on the line, essentially. So that's something there. Which leads to the third storyline, because while all this is happening, Nathan wanted to take Zari on a date during her last day outside of the totem, and that was on Earth at like a nature retreat. Things go wrong, and then they find out that apparently the world is falling apart, and that is because they are technically a bowling ball. The Earth is a bowling ball, and they're feeling the effects of like the apocalyptic stuff as they're being rolled down the bowling alley. So yeah, it's kind of it's a lot to take in. But the last scene of the episode shows Buddy asking the Legends team for a team photo as they celebrate their win against the painkillers and restoring Earth to its proper spot in space. So there's that. Major tidbits, though, for the episode show actually Constantine mentioning John Henry. Now, I don't know if like he's specifically mentioning John Henry as in John Henry Irons on Superman and Lois, or if it's a different John Henry. I don't know. I just thought the moment that he said that, I was like, hey, universe, is it the same one? Do they know each other? Do they know what's going on? I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. So that was a little fun thing there. Also, we have Buddy sensing power from Constantine that Buddy claims will be the end of Constantine. So that's like the beginning of the end kind of a thing that makes us worried for Constantine's new power upgrade having a price and a consequence to it. So there's that. But let's move on to the most shocking moment of the episode. I'd have to say the most shocking thing for the episode is the fact that the Earth was used as a bowling ball in cosmic bowling. I definitely was not expecting that at all. So there's that. And the way that they revealed it too was very cool as well. It was unexpected. It was very good pacing of like that slow reveal to it. So there's that. But let's move to top favorite moments. Favorite moment that I want to say is Nathan's reassurance to Zari that they should be together, OG Zari, because throughout this whole episode, she's been doubting the fact that they can continue with this long distance thing with her being the totem. If they're able to stand being apart from each other, then maybe they shouldn't be together at all. But then Nathan reassures her that being away from her hurts him, and he just wants to be with her and spend any moment he can with her, and pretty much reassuring to her that like he wants to be with her and he doesn't just want to move forward from her. And it was just like really sweet because throughout the whole episode we see her having these doubts, and then to have him give his speech right before they have to save the world kind of a thing, he lays it down for her why they should be together and how he'd rather have her in long distance than not have her at all. He doesn't want to lose her kind of a thing. It's just like they've been through so much, and I feel like I was worried that she was going to break up with him, so I'm glad that he was able to say something to change her mind about that. So there's that. Another favorite I did have was also Sarah's team speeches for the bowling. She knew what her team needed. She knew their motivation. She knew how to get them out of their own head and get them to enjoy the game again and be a team together again instead of being in each other's throats. So I really appreciate that. It's another moment we get to see Sarah thrive as the captain, and I'm really loving it. And also another favorite I had was just the implied fact that the team stayed at the bowling alley to play a few rounds together after saving Earth. It's just like Buddy bringing them drinks, chips, allowing them to have a game on him, or allowing them to stay there and just have fun with no consequences and stuff like that. After the day that they've had, I feel like that is something. I mean, I wish we got to see it, but like I said before, we rarely will get to see the fun parts the characters get to have. It's always we hear it after the fact. So the fact that it was implied that they got to stay back and bowl was just a really great thing. I'm glad that they're able to have those team building moments for sure. Now, top peeve moment. It's a small peeve, and it's the fact that we really had no alien Sarah advantage in this bowling game. I mean, again, there's like episode 9, 10, and now 11, there's really no reference or show of Sarah being an alien. because she's a hybrid after what happened with Bishop. So I kind of was expecting like something to happen, some kind of advantage, but again, no, it's a small tiny thing. I'm glad Sarah got to be awesome as herself. Sarah's my favorite. One of my favorites, I should say. So it's only a tiny thing. But random questions. First one. So who was in the alien pod found in Kansas City? Because the pin killer, was it one of the pin killers who belonged to the alien pod, or was one of their previous trophy victims the one who was in the pod and then they got the invitation to the bowling alley and then they got sucked into it? Because I don't think it was clear about that. And speaking of the trophy victims, were they released after the Legends won, or are all the pin killers victims still stuck in those bowling trophies? So that's a question there. Another question, does Buddy's bowling alley still remain in space? I mean, I'm under the impression that Buddy is not human, but he definitely loves the human creation of bowling. So I'm just wondering, is it still in space, or was it only in space because the Earth was inside the bowling alley to take part in cosmic bowling? I don't know. So that's a question there. And another question, if the Wave Rider remains in the temporal zone, could OG Zari stay longer with the team, or is it possible for both Zaris to be present on board without risking Behrad? Or is it like they just can't be anywhere together except in the totem for a visit? Like, that's what I'm wondering. So I get it'd be a lot more work to have to play like double duty when it came to Zari. But it's always just fun to have like those opportunities. Like, I guess I can go to fan fiction for that. But yeah, there's that. But episode 12, let's get into episode 12. I'm watching the clock and I'm already seeing it's like, I got 2 more to go. There's a lot to talk about. So, episode 12, Board Onboard. Like, there's many different ways to like say that. But timeline, it takes place shortly after 6/11 because the start of the episode has the Legends returning to the Wave Rider after bowling together. Also, the start of the episode marks that it's the 24 hours are up since the start of 6/11, since OG Zari has to return to the totem and Zari 2.0 comes back out. So I guess from the start of 6/11 to the start of 6/12, it's been 24 hours. So that's a reminder there. The villain or the alien of the episode, I would say, is the beast within the role-playing game. I won't say who it is just yet. And then Kayla returning. So with the storylines, we get 2 different storylines. We get the first one, the Beast Slayer, which is the role-playing game similar to Mafia or Among Us. And then the second one is Unwanted Guests. So with the first storyline, we have the Wave Rider, due to Constantine's spell to find Earth, which led into the bowling alley. Gideon's systems were shot, so the jump drive couldn't work, which means that the Wave Rider has to travel to Earth the long way, which is supposed to take at least 3 weeks to do. So the Wave Rider has to conserve its energy just to shorten that 3-week time. And because of this, the team gets sucked into going without their technology, which leads them to being bored, so they're more open to Gary's mystery role-playing game, Beast Slayer. Because of this, Constantine impulsively makes the game real due to his magic and pretty much makes it an immersive experience. But because of his magic being corrupted due to the blood potion, the game starts becoming more real the longer they're stuck in it, which allowed for a beast that they to actually be created and hunt them down, which turns out to be a version of Constantine that was addicted to the new power. So that's something there. And the second storyline with the Unwanted Guests. So while they're playing the game, we have Mick and Gary on the Wave Rider, and they deal with Kayla, who forces herself onto the Wave Rider. She ends up getting a new tentacle, which she amputated because she got stung by a Zagaron. She offers to fix the jump drive, but while doing that, she betrays them, commandeers what Mick calls the meat printer, which is what printed the tentacle to begin with, and creates a new body for Bishop, or we assume it's Bishop from the way she talks about loyalty and how she was saved by this person from the Zagarons. So we see all that happening. Plus she finds out that Mick's pregnant with her Necrian babies, which is why she doesn't kill him when she originally had planned to do so. So there's that. The last scene of the episode shows Sarah hearing music and heading towards the library and pretty much opening it and then staring who's inside. We're assuming it's Bishop. It's very similar to an episode in the earlier part of this season when she first meets Bishop for the first time. So it just cuts to black there on that cliffhanger, which we know it's Bishop. Like, come on. But let's move on to major tidbits. We get some more wedding planning happening between Ava and Sarah. We get Barry and Iris being mentioned specifically in the Group D section of their guest list, as in they shouldn't find out about the wedding until it's too late kind of a deal, because Ava's reasoning is that even though they love Barry and Iris, if they attend the wedding, there's a huge chance that the supervillain is going to come and attack, which is what Ava wants to avoid, despite Sarah's love for Barry and Iris. So that was kind of funny there. We also get mentions of Black Siren, aka Laurel, from the original Earth 2. She was mentioned very briefly when they were talking about other guests, or family guests and stuff, because they were, I don't know if they agreed on whether or not she would be going to the wedding, because then it led into Ava's acting, the people she hired as actors to be her parents. But yeah, we get more name drops during the wedding planning. Another tidbit is the fact that Spooner and Astra trust each other, especially during the Beast Slayer game, willing to team up with each other and explore a way out than to be stuck with someone who could possibly be the Beast. We also see Mick having his hair grow back due to his pregnancy. It apparently is the next stage, and it is a sign that the babies are healthy, according to Gary. So that's something there. But let's move on to the most shocking moment of the episode. I will say that the fact that the Beast in the game was actually a separate entity was not what I was expecting. Essentially, the Beast ended up being a doppelganger of the player. So again, like I said before, we got to see two versions of Constantine. The game player piece of Constantine, and then the Constantine who is actually the Beast in the game. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it'd be more of like Among Us, where it's that character. Like, with Among Us, it's like there's an alien among the crew members, but that alien imposter is still walking around the cruise ship. So if they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, or they fib on an alibi and other people debunk what they say, you can pretty much catch who the imposter is. So I thought that's how this game was going to go. So the fact that the Beast is actually a separate entity, I was kind of going with like, oh, if the Beast attacked, that means it can't be this person because they were with this person at this time. But that's not how it played out in this. So that's what kind of surprised me, that I couldn't use that process of elimination throughout the whole thing. But that was a huge twist, though, for sure. But moving on to top favorite moments, I will say the genuine conversation between Zari and Behrad about Zari's feelings for Constantine. Obviously, we have Behrad being suspicious about Constantine and his behavior lately, and how he seems to be acting different than usual, and then how it leads to Zari confessing that she actually loves Constantine, and Behrad acknowledging the fact that he's never heard Zari talk like this about any other guy before, and then him being supportive and asking her, like, have you told John yet? When are you going to? How are you going to do it? And showing her support, and even saying, like, when she even questioned him, I thought you didn't like John. And he counters, like, no, I do love the guy. It's just he's been acting very strange lately. So really, that support between the two was something I really enjoyed seeing. And just the protectiveness between each other is something I am so here for. So that's something. Another favorite I did like is when the game first started. Bless Gary for his narration skills, but when Constantine first puts everybody in the game, and then you see them be these little figurines that Gary moves around, and then he's actually moving them into position, and then we see the live action versions of his characters moving into position. I thought that was pretty cool. It's just like very meta in a sense, but it's kind of funny. But it's just like that, the amount of detail for that was pretty cool. And then another favorite I had was just a split between the two, and it's more of like the hilarious fight between Gary and the lefty tentacle, and pretty much Gary interacting with the tentacle in itself was hilarious. And then also Mick's apology to Kayla for when he left her behind, and how like he felt guilty, and how like he didn't want to but he did, so, and he recognizing that. And so I appreciate that. It was just like it's that's not something Mick does, and the fact that he said the apology was something that was greatly appreciated. Kind of wish that she didn't betray him later on, but like I'm glad that for Mick he's making progress. So there's that. The one peeve I had about this episode was the fact that the legends who were playing the Beast Slayer game, they were all giving character roles that matched very closely with their own personalities, instead of them being given a gameplay that was very different to their own. Like you had Ava being the detective, you had Beira being the starving artist, you had Zari being the prima donna, you had Astra being the soothsayer, you had Spooner being the hunter, you had Constantine being the consumptive doctor, you had Sarah being the Black Widow. It's like they were all very, very closely connected to their own personalities. It's like, yes, that's first a huge coincidence for them as like dealing cards out, and we just got to see them be like over dramatized versions of themselves as these roles. What was Nathan even? Can't remember. It's gonna be on screen. But then I would have loved it if like maybe they got to play a different role. Like maybe if Zari was the hunter, or if Astra was the Black Widow, or if Ava was the consumptive doctor, or Bayrod was the hunter. Like if they had been gameplay roles that are completely opposite to their own personality, I thought that would have been a lot more fun to see them, especially if they were slowly turning into their own characters. It would have been very interesting to see them be something completely different. So that was only a peeve there, is the fact that they only just played a more dramatized version of themselves, instead of being forced to be a different character because the game was progressing and becoming more real. So that was a peeve that I had. Random questions, though, I did have a few more. First one, how did Kayla get access into the Wave Rider from the outside? Second, where did Kayla go after knocking Mick out, and why did she leave Lefty behind? I also don't get why Lefty wasn't attached to Kayla when it was printed out by Gideon. Like, or did she just rip it off of her to allow for Lefty to do its own thing? Which is also weird too, and kind of slimy. So that's a question there. Another question, how did Ava know that Sarah was the Beast before they were both killed? Because Ava was the first death in the game before the game took on a more realistic approach. So I'm wondering, how did Ava know that Sarah was supposed to be the original Beast before Constantine's spell altered the gameplay? That's my question there. And then another question, if Constantine performed his spell on the game without the corruptive magic that he had, do you think it would have played out the same way with Constantine still being the Beast, or would it have been Sarah being the Beast like Ava shouted out once everyone matured from the game? So that's a question there. And finally, let's get into episode 13. Watching the timer right now, I really hope I finish before the hour mark, which I think would be quite a feat considering I'm talking about 6 different things in this video. So please be patient. But episode 613, which just premiered a few days ago, continues with the timeline, continues from episode 612, because the ending of that episode is Sarah opening up the library, and then this episode starts with her coming face to face with Bishop. So there's that. Villain of the episode is Bishop and Constantine. Constantine in the sense like it's his own addiction against himself kind of a thing, but Bishop as overall, he's the constant like, are you a threat? Are you not a threat? We don't trust you kind of a thing. So with that said, we got 3 different storylines. First one, Interrogation. Second one, Speedy Arrival. And the third one is Dangerous Addictions. First one with Interrogation deals with Ava trying to get answers from Bishop while Sarah and Nathan watch from the security feed. This leads to Ava using wedding planning as a way to get Bishop to let his guard down. Them talking about each other being clones, having a sense of like they are each other's family in a way, weirdly enough. And it really gets them both thinking about like how they really don't have the traditional family with mom and dad since they're both clones and stuff like that. So it really gets to a lot more of a deeper personal issues or concerns that Ava had and a lot of doubts and stuff. So we see that unfolding there. With the second storyline with Speedy Arrival, we get Mick going into premature labor due to Bishop's involvement with this weird Necrian smoothie. And Gary tries to help Mick prepare before he gets locked out by Bishop's command to lock down the hallways. But eventually, all 48 Necrian babies, embryos, whatever, they get birthed. Hits a lot. So there's that. So Mick's in the clear. He survived. So that answers the question I had in episode 9. He's alive. Thank you. The third storyline, though, deals with dangerous addiction, so that really focuses more on Constantine dealing with the blood potion addiction. So we get Zari getting suspicious and getting help from Astra and Spooner and learning the truth about Constantine's behavior, how he never drank from the Fountain of Imperium, but he's taking this blood potion as his magic source. So while this is all happening, he is struggling to get clean from this blood potion. He tells Zari that he's going to do everything he can to get clean, but the last scene of the episode shows Constantine taking the blood potion again and then agreeing to hear Bishop out about his proposal for restoring Constantine's power. So it seems like he went back on his word to Zari. But before we get into that, major tidbits of the episode. We have no Bayrod in this episode, actually, because at the end of the previous episode in 612, he mentioned how he was going to visit his parents now that they were back on Earth. He was going to go visit them in 2044. And so since that was set up at the end of 612, he's not actually featured in episode 13 because he's away visiting his parents. Also, we get mention of Sarah's alien taste buds when she's drinking the concoction that was given to Mick for his alien babies to feed their taste buds. And we also see Sarah's rapid healing taking effect as well when she was fighting off against Bishop. So there's that. Moving on to a shocking moment of the episode, we find out that Bishop's upload for his DNA was corrupted by Sarah when she destroyed his facility. So apparently there was 6% of his DNA that was missing. We find out that he took 6% of Sarah's DNA and merged it with his own. So pretty much he claims that anything Sarah knows, he now knows. So like that's Wave Rider protocols, passcodes, apparently her fighting skills too. I'm here thinking, how is it that he can know everything about her from just 6% of her DNA? It's like, that. How does that make sense? But apparently, that's a thing. So he's completely human, except now he's like really more related to Sarah than anybody else on the ship. So there's that. Top favorite moments, though, for the episode. I will say the bond between Ava and Bishop was something I really liked. The genuine parts where it was believable that he genuinely wanted to get to know her. They were bonding. They seemed to be on the same wavelength. And so it really had me questioning whether or not like maybe they could be family in some sense, because he did create the Ava clones and how he was talking about like how proud he was of her, how he didn't expect her to achieve so much, or how he programmed her to be one thing and she ended up turning out to be so much more. And it's like, I feel like a lot of the stuff he was saying to her was stuff that, like, she needed to hear deep down from, like, a parental figure, which she never got because she was a clone. So up until the point where, like, he broke himself out, I feel like I had hope for Bishop and Ava and the growth between them. But then he went after the babies, but then he went back to his cell, and he seemed like he genuinely wanted to be on Ava's good side and Sarah's good side, and helping plan the wedding and trying to be helpful in any way he can. It was just like, I wanted to root for that bond forming. But then what he's doing with Constantine, I'm not sure anymore. I have my doubts, but they did have it was a very interesting dynamic seeing Ava and Bishop trying to get to know each other while also keeping their guards up and then taking it down a bit, and the impact they had on each other. That was interesting to see. Another favorite I had was Constantine and Zari, the honest conversation they had about the feelings, both of them saying I love you to each other, him promising that he wants to get clean and how she deserves so much more, but if she's willing to be with him, he wants to find out who he can be without magic so he can be with her, kind of a thing, from my understanding of it. And she pretty much told him out, like she doesn't appreciate being lied to, and that's what he did, and like she deserves so much better, from my understanding, which she does, absolutely. And I feel like they agreed that, like, she wants to stand by him and like help him work through this. And it looked like they were in such a good place before he listened to his, like, drug addiction, which is hard, but like it has me very worried about this relationship. But I appreciate that honest conversation that they had with each other. So there's that. Another favorite I did have was between Mick and Gary, when Mick told Gary that he's going to be the godfather of his 48 Necrian babies. And then Gary's reaction to it was just so cute and so sweet. And it was just like, he was so excited to be named that. And I was just like, good job, Gary. It's like, you deserve that. And I'm glad that there was no question to make to have that. I don't know if it's because, like, literally Gary is the same species as his alien baby, so it's like that naturally it would make sense. But it just seemed like maybe the connection of how, like, Gary's been trying to look out for Mick throughout this whole thing, this whole pregnancy, and just like, yeah, Godfather Gary is what we're gonna get for these babies. So I really like that idea. Now, the peeve though I had with this episode was actually during Mick's moment of labor. It was just so grossed out because, like, his face would, like, be swollen and contorting and moving, and like his eyeball popping out of place at times. It was just like, it grossed me out because it looked so real, and that's like kudos for the special effects people. But it's like, for stuff like that where it's like body modifications like that, where it's like, it'd be so gross out if you were to see that in real life. It's just like, no, please. That's like, it's not a peeve, it's more of a gross out factor for me. So I was like, okay, I could have gone without, but yeah. So there's that. But random questions though, very quickly. I only had the one, and that was, Gary recalls his dad's stories about labor, which he was telling Mick to kind of ease his mind. But it had me thinking, does Gary have any siblings? Because Mick is giving birth to 48 babies, so I would assume that Gary also came from a huge brood of eggs. So I'm wondering, like, where are they? Are they alive, maybe? Maybe, is that maybe someone that unknown person at the wedding, maybe was that somebody? I don't know. But it'd be very interesting to learn a little bit more about Gary's family, because, like, it's only just the dad that we've heard from him. So that'd be pretty cool to learn. So there's that. So that is pretty much it, guys. 5 episodes, a panel to talk about. So let's go into predictions very quickly. So based off the promo for 6/14, we have Zari returns to find Constantine healthy again, which concerns her. We see him working with Bishop, who has set up shop in the laboratory where his cell was meant to be located. We see Mick getting caught with an exploding bomb in the kitchen for some reason. And then we see Spooner and Asher time traveling to the past and running into a younger version of Spooner's mom. So that's something. The synopsis, though, reads that when Asher and Spooner find themselves as stowaways, they learn that Constantine is still chasing the Fountain of Imperium and find themselves in 1920s Texas. With the rest of the legends stranded, they come up with a plan to get help by using Mick as bait that will also help reunite him with something that is special to him. Meanwhile, Spooner learns some information about her past that she wasn't expecting. So that's probably going to be out about her mom. Him constantly finding the Fountain of Imperium. I'm wondering, well, what would make him worthy for the fountain, especially after this recent addiction of his? Like, I don't think, unless he goes to the like purely huge cleansing ritual, I don't see the fountain approving Constantine from drinking from it. So there's that. But using Mick as bait for a reunion, I don't know what that could be. But it says here that Sarah, Nathan, Zari, Ava, Gary, and Bayrod are also set to appear. And also, this episode is directed by Maisie Richard Sellers, aka Amaya, and Charlie. She's back to direct the episode, so we get a little bit of behind-the-scenes reunion happening there. But yeah, I'm also interested to know if we're going to see Lita welcoming her baby before the season ends, because I kind of want Mick to meet his grandchild before he leaves the show. Maybe that's the reason why he leaves the show, is so that he can stay with his daughter and his grandchild. But anyways, guys, that is pretty much it. What did you guys think of these 5 episodes? What did you guys think of the news that was revealed at the at-home Comic-Con panel? Please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your own thoughts, theories, opinions about all that stuff. I talked about a lot in this episode. I hope I covered it. I know I missed a bunch of stuff, but I hope I covered the gist of it. I really just go watch these 5 episodes. You'll get through them very quickly because you just want to keep watching them one right after the other, because so much stuff happens and you just want to find out more. So please go check those out. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. I reblog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that good stuff. All found in one place. Go check that out. I am slightly behind. I'm not as behind as I was last time I talked about Legends, but I'm slowly updating. As you know, I usually update as much as I can for Tumblr, but it's a designated day kind of a thing. So I just pile things up until it comes to the point where it's like, yeah, it's time to update. And then there's that. Otherwise, WordPress account link for that is down below. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress, a little more organized, a little more detailed, but still a work in progress as well. But otherwise, guys, that is going to be pretty much it. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to combine episodes 14 and 15 together, or if they're going to be 2 different episodes or 2 different video recaps. I'll have to wait and see what my schedule looks like in regards to work and stuff like that and projects. So yeah, so I go, you guys tune in for the episode, but also come back to see what I have to say about those 2. I really don't know how they're going to end the season. I don't want Constantine to die, but it's kind of looking like that's where things are headed. So I'm a little nervous about that. But yeah, so guys, this is Mel. Wishing you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Please stay safe. And until next time, guys, bye for now.